The Uplift experience is so unique that our IB Scholars experience begins in our primary grades and is implemented throughout their K-12 experience. We are so fortunate tonight to have two of our very own. We have Dr. Crystal Ward, who is the Director of Recruitment, who many of you, our new families, have not maybe personally met, but have had some contact in some way because you've been getting information about Uplift. And we also have Robert Ortiz, and he's our Director of Family Engagement for College and Career. And he's going to share with you in detail tonight on the YIB as our road to college and career and how it benefits our scholars and our families. So sit back and relax and take in as much as you can. And some of the housekeeping, I'm going to let Dr. Crystal Ward kind of go over that with you guys. She's here and I want her to be able to speak so she can like say hello to the families out here. Dr. Ward.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. We are super excited to have you. As Lanisha said, I am the Director of Scholar Recruitment. We chose to do this in the Zoom format versus the webinar format because the webinar sometimes can be impersonal and you're just kind of looking at the screen versus being able to see our faces and interact and ask questions. But with that, it does get tricky with the Zoom. And so try to keep mute if possible, but if you have questions, please put them into the chat. If you've never used Zoom, just right at the bottom of your screen, you should see something that shows participants as well as the chat. It should allow you to send us personal inboxes if you want. If you have a direct message that you want to send to Lanisha, myself, Alicia, or Robert, or Courtney Obwefi is also on the line. We all work for Uplift Education, so feel free to send us direct messages. And then also there'll be a Q&A time where if you have a question that's specific for yourself or just something that you want to know, we'll be able to answer those at the end of the presentation. Other than that, we are super excited to have you. Enjoy the presentation.
I'm guessing that's my cue, right?
I was about to say, up next is Robert Ortiz. Sorry, buddy.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, I just want to echo the warm welcome to everyone on the call tonight. Thank you for joining us on this evening. We'll try to get through this so that you can enjoy your dinner and the rest of your night. But my name is Robert Ortiz, and I'm the Director of Family Engagement for College and Career. And I have the privilege of working with Dr. Ward and Ms. Lanisha Roberts on the call, along with their teams. So tonight, we're going to be talking about IB, and more particularly the benefits of IB. And so Ms. Lanisha Roberts explained more about how we are an IB school, International Baccalaureate. And so what does that mean for scholars, and what do we know the benefits to be in an IB education? And so, and more particularly, how does that compare to other programs? And we're going to focus on an early college high school program. So looking at the two. I do want to make a disclaimer. Uplift schools do not have early college high schools. And so we want to make that known. We do not have that here as a network because we believe so strongly in an IB education and how it's preparing scholars for college and beyond. So let's get started. Always like to start with Uplift's mission because it helps us center our conversation and it helps give context to why we do everything that we do and why we exist. And so we exist to create and sustain public schools of excellence that empower students, as we refer to our scholars, to reach their highest potential in college in the global marketplace. And the global marketplace basically means whatever they choose to do in the world that makes it a better place. And so that is anything and everything in their contribution. And that inspire students a lifelong love of learning, achievement, and service in order to positively change their world. And so this is our driving force. This is what we do, and this is what we aspire to achieve through our schools and through education. So what is IB? Ms. Roberts went over a little bit about that. And so let's just break it down a little bit. So if an Uplift scholar is with us and they're in the classroom, they are earning an IB education, period. Now within that, it's broken down by grade levels. So our first part is our primary years. So our kindergarten through 5th grade, they are going through what we call primary years. And that is the first element of an IB education. Then the second part is when they're in 6th grade through 10th grade, and that is the middle years program. But tonight, we're going to focus our information on the diploma program. And that is essentially the last phase of an IB education where students have the opportunity to earn college credit while they're with us in their last 2 years. So that is going to be their 11th and 12th grade year. And that is what we're going to focus on tonight, are the benefits that come out of that last phase of an IB education. So we know that Uplift families, and I know we have new families on the call, or maybe families who are thinking about joining Uplift, and this is a way for you to really learn more about what's offered here. And so we understand that as a family, you always have options for your scholar's education. You make the decision to be at Uplift or to stay with Uplift, and you also have options to consider other areas in your neighborhood and within the community. We believe that we are leading the way in educating scholars for college and beyond. And so we want to have the opportunity where we can talk about that and share with you why, while also being real about some of these other programs, more particularly early college, high school, and just for you to know how to consider your options. And so that's why we want to help best support you in that reality, because we know that's what you have. So let's get into it. So to break it down, in early college, high school is a program for 9th to 12th grade students. And then the diploma program that I mentioned earlier is a program for our 11th and 12th grade students. So when we break it down, these are what the programs are. And let's go into those benefits. So one thing that we know for sure, that college costs money and it's not getting cheaper. And so the more that we go into time and we go into the future, it's safe to say that college is going to continue to be more expensive. And so something at Uplift that we are very committed to is working with families to receive the best services and financial help to help minimize those costs. Completely is the goal, but at least significantly. And so for both an early college, high school and a diploma program, they're both saving money toward a college education, and they're both saving time. So when we think about the benefits, they both have that one. But then from there, the benefits start being a little bit different. So an early college, high school by design is going to be in partnership with a community college. So you may be familiar with Dallas County Community College, which is now Dallas College. They did a name change recently. And we also have Tarrant County College, which some of you may be familiar with out in Fort Worth and Arlington. And so an early college, high school is going to reflect that of a community college experience. That is by design. That is what it is there for. An IB education, however, is really designed as a 4-year university experience. And so based on the education, based on the hands-on projects that students go through, it is preparing scholars for a 4-year university education. It is increased development in the classroom that reflects better of that type of education. So that's a big difference there. Going on to the third, early college, high schools, a passing score. So if I'm in the classroom, I'm not only am I earning high school credit, I'm also earning college credit through that community college. And so I have the opportunity to where that's going to be good for a public school, perhaps like UTA or UT Dallas, but it could also be used to continue my education at a community college. However, what's different for an IB education is that, yes, I'm having the opportunity to earn college credit through my high school classes, but the options of applying that credit to other schools is greater. And so that opens up my options to universities, maybe out of state, but also private schools, if that is something that as a student I'm interested in. And then the last level of benefits here is an early college, high school, best case scenario, students are earning an associate's degree. An associate's degree is basically 2 years of college credit, to really break it down that way. And then the last piece for IB is that there's not going to be an opportunity to earn an associate's degree, but like I said earlier, there's going to be a greater options afforded to that student, especially when we think about college acceptances, and we'll get into more of that later. So this is a good snapshot of the potential benefits for both of these programs. Now I'm going to change gears to the risks. And so I'm going to spend a little bit more time here. And so, because this is the area where I think it's really important to spend time on, are the risks. So let's start with an early college, high school. If a student is in an early college, high school program, they're in a high school class that is also giving them the opportunity to earn college credit. If they don't pass that class, it has a great impact on that student's grade, but now they are running the risk of hurting their college GPA. And so what I mean by that is, as a freshman in high school, students who are taking early college classes, if they do not pass, they have now damaged their college transcript, because they have now started not only their high school transcript, but also their college transcript. And in most cases, they're kicked out of the program. So students are not able to continue any further because now they run the risk of not being successful. And most schools do not want to run the risk of them continuing, because then it just does further damage if they don't pass those classes. And so this really puts scholars or students in a difficult position, because now at this moment, you're having to change schools again or look for another school. And the second thing is going to come back when they graduate high school, because now they're on what is academic probation. And so if a student doesn't pass their classes, they get Fs and they have a low GPA. Now they're going to have to run into that problem when they actually want to go to college, because that transcript will always stay with them in their academic pursuits after high school. And so that is just a huge risk for students to take when they're a freshman in high school. And we're thinking 14, 15 years old. The second piece of that is now they're ineligible to earn that associate's degree, which they were hoping to earn. And then going back to that piece of academic probation, in the long run, it could hurt their eligibility for financial aid. And so there has been situations where a student may have experienced this, they graduate high school, they think they have a fresh start, and then they realize they're not eligible for financial aid because of something that may have happened 3 years ago when they were 14 or 15 years old. So the risks of this are too great for students. The last couple of things, typically early college, high schools have college faculty teaching them, which in most cases do not have the experience of teaching high school students. And so that can create challenges and barriers, because we know as a young high school student, it's going to be maybe difficult to pay attention, or maybe you forget an assignment, or maybe it's hard to focus. Most cases, the teachers in early college, high school lack the experience on how to manage that and how to support that student in those circumstances. And then the last thing is lack of extracurricular activities. So again, most early college schools do not have extracurricular activities that could be limiting to the student's experience. So those are the risks of early college, which are a lot. And when we look at the diploma program, where students have the opportunity to earn college credit, there's really not many risks associated with it. And I know you may think, okay, you're just saying that because you're Uplift and you're an IB school, maybe you're being biased. And trust me, I had those same questions. And I asked a lot of people, hey, am I being naive about this? Am I not being accurate about this? And it came down to like, honestly, Robert, like there's not the risk of an IB program other than they may not earn the diploma. And so that's a real risk with the diploma program, is that if a student maybe chooses to not take courses that could earn them college credit, then they are not eligible for the diploma. Something to also note is that there are IB exams that determine the college credit piece. And so there may be a situation where a student doesn't score high enough to earn those credits or earn the diploma. And that is a disappointing situation because you've worked so hard to earn these credits, and then you come to find out, I can't get this diploma, I'm not eligible for it. That is disappointing. However, it doesn't run them the risk of getting kicked out of Uplift. That's not going to happen. It doesn't run them the risk of not earning college credits at all, because they can have that opportunity with other classes. And it doesn't impact a college GPA. They haven't started that yet. And so there's no risk of hurting a college GPA through a DP program. If anything, it's preparing them to have a strong college GPA when they go to college in the fall of their upon graduating high school. So the risks that are associated with an early college program are not there for a diploma program in the IB education. And it's really one of the many reasons why we put so much trust and confidence in a program like IB that we think are best preparing scholars for college. So that was a lot. And so I know that's a lot to take in and process, but when we're talking about the benefits and what are the risks, we have to take the time to talk through these. So if you have questions, please write them down. Save them for the end, because we'll definitely go into more time for Q&A. So, okay, let's now go into like the real benefits here. So this is a slide that highlights college acceptance rates. And I love this slide because it communicates so much. So I listed here UT Austin, which I think we're all familiar with UT Austin, hook 'em. And then also University of Michigan, which maybe some of us are familiar with if we're into college sports, but outside of that, you may have not heard of it. But that is a top university, not only in the state of Michigan, but also in the United States, similar to UT. So you'll notice there's some numbers here, some percentages. Looking at UT, you'll see that the normal acceptance rate at UT is 39%. And so based on their criteria and eligibility standards, that is their acceptance rate, which makes them a pretty competitive school at 39%. But then that next number right next to it, 81.5%. That's the acceptance rate for students with an IB education. There's a pretty big significant difference in those numbers. And so it is almost double for IB students. So we are so excited about that, because what that means is our students at Uplift, when we're thinking about a great school like UT, have now twice a greater opportunity or twice more likely to be accepted there, solely being an IB student. And then when we look at the University of Michigan, it's similar. Acceptance rate is a little over 28%, but then the IB acceptance rate is almost 71%, which is 2.5 times more than the standard acceptance rate. So it is clear that an IB education is setting students apart in general, but especially in the college application process. And the reason being is because these universities know that an IB education is best preparing for scholars, and they want them at their school. Something to know about these schools is that they have a reputation to keep. right? There's a reason why it's hard to get into these schools, and they know that. They're not naive. They know that they are very selective on who they accept in their university, which is why they make a stronger bet on IB students to keep up their reputation, to uphold their reputation, because they don't want to ruin that, right? And it's very selective, and it comes out in their admissions process. And so you'll notice here, UT graduation rate is at 82%, University of Michigan acceptance rate's at 92%. And so that's the reputation that universities want to uphold. That's something they're very proud of. And they want to be able to accept students who are going to either uphold that number or make it higher. And they make their bets on IB students because they know they have what it takes to be successful. And then we're coming up to the last few slides here, so bear with me, and we'll get to Q&A. So what is the estimated cost value of an IB education? Actually, there's an updated number to this on the next slide, but let's look at the university enrollment numbers. So the enrollment piece, 95% versus 60%. The blue bar are IB students. So they're enrolling to college way more than those without an IB education. And they're also graduating college twice the rate than those without an IB education. And so not only does that show up in the college admissions process, it's also showing up when students are graduating college. It is just proven that an IB education is preparing scholars for college, but also to graduate from college at much higher rates than those who don't have one. And so again, this is why at Uplift, we are an IB school, we're an IB network, because of the confidence we have in at best preparing our scholars for the future. And so, fun fact, it is state law that if a student earns an IB diploma, so with an IB diploma, there's credit packaged in there. So if a student graduates from a Texas high school with an IB diploma, Texas public universities and colleges must grant them a minimum, so keyword, a minimum of 24 credit hours, which is almost a full year of college. Now, it is common and it is proven that most schools will award more credits than the 24. And so it's anywhere between 24 to 48, depending on the school that you go to. And so schools have no way around this. It is Texas law that they must grant 24 college credit hours, which I think is great security for a scholar and for the family to know if they're looking to stay in Texas, that's going to be a guaranteed credit that's awarded to them on the first day of class. So something to look forward to there. And then my last slide is the value of a college education, or the value of an IB education. And so depending on where you go to school, an IB diploma can be worth up between $12,000 or $52,000 or more, just depending on where you go. And so when you look at the $12,000 number, that's going to be more like a Texas public school. So maybe a community college, UTA, UT Dallas, based on the tuition prices, that's going to be the cost savings. But when you think about private schools within Texas or out of Texas, or even out of state schools, because tuition could be higher for out of state schools, that's where the value increases to where you're saving up to $50,000 or more, which is a lot of money. And that is based off of the 24 credit hours that are awarded for the IB diploma. And so depending on where you go, you may get more bang for your buck when you consider what the cost savings will be. So that is significant, and that is something that's worth noting when you're in an IB school.